Welcome in to another episode of the My Two Bits Gators Football Podcast. I am Ben, and I am joined as always by my friend in Gainesville, Mr. Randy. How we doing tonight, Randy?
B, doing well, my man, doing well. Looking forward to this coming Saturday and the biggest cocktail party, but overall, no complaints. Hope the guys got a good bit of rest this past week and we're able to work on some things.
Yeah. Interesting seeing some of the comments come out about practice and how well it's been going. I'll maybe talk to it about it a little more later, but I do find it interesting how focused in the team, the coaching staff, everybody is on the practices through the week and how they lead up to. And don't get me wrong, I know that's a thing. I think we all are somewhat aware that if you practice well, it tends to lead to you playing better. But I find it interesting because it seems like there's a real strong emphasis being put on that. And
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think that's not necessarily something we've seen in the past. I was actually thinking about it earlier. So, well, I'm glad you're doing good, as you can hear in my voice, and as of course you're well aware, I am not doing so great. I'm a bit under the weather. Actually had to delay this a night because I was so under the weather yesterday. So I should be better today. I'm all set up. I got my box of tissues. I got my Chloraseptic, and I think we'll be good to go. So, but in all seriousness, I am going to probably keep it on mute a bit more than I normally would, so we may not have quite as much dialogue going back and forth in this one as we sometimes do. Just for that reason, that I'm going to be trying to kind of save my voice and keep my coughing off air as much as possible. So just so we put that out in the open. We do have a cool show for you this evening. I think it's going to be a really cool to get into some of this stuff. For the bye-week episode here, and to that end, I'll kind of run down, as we always do, our mission, our vision, and then our agenda for this particular pod, being a little different than the other ones. So number one, our mission here at the My Two Bits podcast is to provide factual analysis of all things Gator football, to have unfiltered and then their vision, is to have unfiltered conversation around the product on the field, as well as recruiting and overall coaching decisions. Our analysis will be based on review of film, and while we will express opinion, that opinion should always be based in some type of fact. It will also evaluate strategy and tactics, and our observation of player personnel decisions and on-the-field execution. So, our agenda for this particular show is going to be, we're still going to do some of our normal segments. We always have our Chomp segment as part of the pod, and we're going to continue to do that this evening, but we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to take a look at the things we liked and the things that we'd like to see improve from the first half of the season, and then, of course, going forward into the second half. We're going to do the same take for Gator Bait, which is our segment on defense, and then we're also going to do the same take for Pride of the Sunshine. So, again, things we'd like to see improve, a little both sides of the coin for each of these. We're then going to talk a little bit about recruiting. Wonder why. Huge news over the weekend. If you haven't heard, we'll get to that in that segment. And then we'll do a couple midseason superlatives. We're just going to do one on offense and one on defense, just players we think have really stood out so far throughout the first half or first half plus one of the season. And then we'll talk a little about our expectations for the remainder of the season. We'll play Keep It or Pitch It for the Georgia game, and then we will wrap things up. So with that all being said, let's get into the Chomp segment here and talk about things we've liked so far. Why don't you start us off, bud?
You got to be. And for the record, I enjoy. Obviously, I don't enjoy you being sick, but I see you've got your radio voice on tonight, so that's good.
Well,
that's good.
as best I can with all this congestion. Thanks, though.
I dig it, with some more help from your buddy Chloraseptic there. All right, so
that's it.
So Chomp segment, has been really, really unique this year. Some ups, some downs, some lefts, some rights, and just everything through it all. I'm going to go through a couple of things that I'm going to highlight of things that I like. And the first thing I'm going to say is weapons. We have more weapons than I thought we would have, but not just in the sense of talent, in the sense of legitimate weapons, right? Trey Wilson, right? Twitchy Trey. He's turned into something phenomenal, right? We need to get him the ball more. What's the greatest way to implement him into the game scheme and things like that? Arliss Boardingham. Sounds like he should be going to Harvard with a name like that. Arliss has come on huge, especially with his big catches past couple games. Massive fourth down conversion in South Carolina for that comeback. Slick Ricky Pearsall. It's amazing to see what he's done thus far. So check this out. For Slick Rick, I'll point out specifically, he's got 44 receptions so far, 4 shy of his career high. And of course, those of you who don't know, he came over to us from ASU. Right now, he's got 619 yards, 42 shy of his career high. So chances are this coming Saturday, he will have his career high in receptions and yards. So really, really good to see that. But just amazing weapons, right? We've heard about Gene. We've heard about Mizell. We've seen them implemented a little bit, right? Hayden Hansen. We've seen him thrown in. Burke. We've seen him thrown in. So we have more weapons that I thought we would have. And quite frankly, Billy's made a mention of the weapons that we do have, and it's nice to see some guys step up. Really, really nice to see. It's a nice surprise, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, 100%. Let's not forget about our running backs, right? Our two-headed monster that is Johnson and Etienne. Now again, Treon Webb's got some great snaps this year. He's shown that he can run the ball with purpose. But at the end of the day, when I look at it, Etienne, 5.9 yards per carry, actually number 26 in the nation in all running backs. Johnson's at 5.2 yards per carry. So pretty cool there. Another thing that I've enjoyed is, and again, we were shaky on this, right, for the preseason show, but red zone efficiency. Now, arguably, we might have had some troubles with play calling and just in general, sometimes it might seem like we do the same thing over and over again. But folks, if you don't know this, we are 29 of 31 in the red zone for 0.935.
Yeah, it's something that's really gotten better as the season's gone along too. You've seen real improvement there, which I think is also really important.
We have seen a real improvement, not to mention that 29 of 31. The interesting thing about that is, I want to say we ripped off 28 in a row, 28 consecutive red zone conversions, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown. And that's good for tied for number 15 in the nation. So anyways, really, really good to see red zone efficiency. Like, seriously, if you want to give it a grade in school, that's an A all day long, right?
100%, no pun intended.
Right? Hey, fair. Another thing that I like, most people might not look at it, but time of possession. Gator Nation, not sure if you know, but we are averaging 34 minutes a game in time of possession. That's number 4 in the nation, or actually tied for number 3. Really unique. So when you look at Billy's scheme, his plan, is it ground and pound? We've talked about some of the drives we've had this year: 9 plays, 10 plays, 13 plays, 92 yards, 88 yards, 75 yards. Definitely on offense, when we get the football, we're definitely, again, whether it's trying to figure out the offense, stalling, whatever have you, time of possession means that we are controlling that football. And guess what? If you're controlling the time of possession, that typically means very good in the win column. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to speak to in things that I like is, I figure his name's going to come up a little bit tonight, right? But Mr. Mertz, when you look at what he has done, again, we weren't asking to come in here and be this golden knight. We weren't asking him to come in here and be a unicorn, but we knew he had some starts underneath his belt there up in Wisconsin, the land of dairy, right? 37 starts. So on that basis, Mr. Mertz, 76.2 completion percentage, good for number 3 in the nation. 1,897 yards, good for number 26 in the nation. Again, 12 touchdowns, 2 picks, not high on the touchdowns, right? Not high on the picks, right there. Averaging about 271 and change yards per game, good for number 28 in the nation. Regardless of the inconsistencies we've had on offense, we're averaging a total offense number 42 in the nation. And Mr. Mertz with yards per attempt, 8.51 yards per attempt, good for number 31 in the nation. And overall passing offense, 280.4 and change, good for number 32 in the nation. So having those things been said, regardless of the inconsistencies, regardless of the up and downs, regardless of some of the things that we want to see, overall, those are things I've liked to see so far. And that's what has created a lot of the calmness, I feel like, that will help, hopefully, with the fundamentals that Billy's trying to implement. That's what's going to help take us through the gauntlet of the second half of the season to where we're probably going to surprise the nation, and rightfully so. Hopefully we can do that.
Wow. Oh, big call out there. Careful.
I know. I know.
Okay, I like it. Maybe we'll hear some more about that later when we talk about where we're going from here. I like it. I like it. I like the thought process, and I do think there's reason, to be happy with a lot of things that we've seen so far on offense. To the point that you made, is that all of them that you've got? I don't want to cut you off.
Man, how'd you cut me up? I'm kidding. No. That's it. Four major points.
Good deal. Good deal. All right. So I have four as well. I'm going to start where you finished, and that is going to be Mr. Graham Cracker, as you like to call him. He has really been more than we've asked for. I mean, we knew what we kind of needed out of him. I would say, especially when you look at the last couple of games, and especially obviously the last game, he's been even more than that. Now, I would say that there is probably a mixture here, based on kind of what I've seen, what I've heard, right, from hearing them talk to the media, from hearing them or seeing what we've seen on the field, right. I believe there's a mixture here of some of this was maybe Graham being a little cautious, right, not wanting to turn the ball over, taking the safe throw, even if there was possibly a deeper one open, in some certain circumstances. But also there's a mix here of the play calling piece of it, right? And we've talked about this, right? That guys weren't necessarily consistently open downfield, right? So those shots, he maybe looked for them and they weren't there to take because they weren't open, right? So this is where we kind of get into some of that stuff. Really saw that be much, much better against South Carolina. Now, I know South Carolina is a terrible defense, right? So let's not get too carried away. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, I really do think that he's shown that he has gone, far and away better than what we even asked. Like I said, it may not all be perfect, that's for sure. But we as a fan base ask, and as a program really overall, ask more of the QB than probably most other places in the country. And I don't see a way that you can't say that Mertz has delivered so far this year, and really delivered on all accounts. So that's really great to see. I think maybe the most important thing, having said all of that, has been that it has been consistent. That we stressed this at the beginning of the year, right? We said, give me a quarterback who can consistently run the offense effectively and efficiently. And that's all we wanted, right? That's really all we wanted. We thought that with the weapons we had, as you discussed, really nice, points there. And then also with this defense potentially improving, which it has, even though there's still some question marks there. We know that, but it's definitely gotten better. There's no question about that. And when you look at it, all we asked for was that consistency, and we've gotten it in spades. I mean, really, again, even better than what we were looking for. So, yeah, hard to say enough about Mertz. I will stop there, because I don't want to go too long about it, but he's been really, really exceptional. So dot point number 2 here is going to be Mr. Tricky Trey. As you spoke already about him, despite the fact that he's only played in like 5 of the games now. I think he just burned his red shirt in the last game. What an unbelievably exciting playmaker, man. And just oozes future potential. I mean, this kid I don't think there's any doubt how special he has the potential to be and what lies in front of him. I love how much we're getting him involved in the offense and in different ways, especially again in this last game, having him, do some carries, having him do the jet sweep, running the wildcat, whatever it might be, right? It's been really, really good. And we definitely need to continue that going forward and really even continue growing his role, even from what it is now. So yeah, that's a really good one, and I'm really excited to have him. Definitely something I love seeing. Next up is youth on the field. So I'm going to talk about this on both sides of the ball as a positive, but the youth on the field, we always want to see the best players play, right? That's just it. We don't care how, experienced they are. If it's the best guy and he's playing the best, he should be on the field. And it seems clear to me that that's what's happening with all the freshmen and sophomores we have playing, right? Because you don't see those guys play unless they're just the most talented guys. I mean, and sometimes even then you don't see him play, right? We can have a conversation about past regimes, but I'll leave it alone. Um, while this does, sometimes give us, some execution stuff that happens, right? Guys not always 100% getting the assignment right, whether it's offense or defense. The experience these players are getting and learning is invaluable, right? And that's what's so big about this. It speaks to the future of where this team is going. You know, I mean, we've talked about it more than once. Next year's schedule is just horrific.
Oh
It's the
yeah.
hardest schedule I've ever seen in college football. And we are going to need a team worthy of that task. And I think we're working on building one. And I'm really, really excited to say that. So it's only going to make us stronger going forward the rest of this season and in next year. It just is. So last thing I'll call out as things I like. I almost can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going to. The play calling that we saw against South Carolina, and even a
Oh
degree,
my.
yeah, right. And even to a degree against Vandy. We started seeing some concepts and some designs in the Vandy game that I hadn't necessarily. I mean, they're variations on what Napier's always done, but they were little tweaks on it, right? Some of those motions um, for or rollouts for the quarterback, right? And then some of the just play flow, I'll call it, right? Everything kind of flowing one way, and then the quarterback's rolling back the other, right? And then you're opening something up on the backside, or all the stuff we were seeing with Arliss in that game. Anyway, I don't want to go too in depth with it, but it just really is starting to look like a more well-developed offense. I really hope that continues. We saw some things last year early on in the season, specifically against Tennessee. We thought we would potentially see more of that, and then we really didn't, and we don't really know why. So, be very interested to see how this goes forward and what we look like, getting into that. So that wraps it up for my stuff that I like on offense. Let's move it on to the things we'd like to see improve. So, um, as I already stated, play calling and design has been better. However, the first 5 games, it was not great, right? We talked about it at length. I won't go into the details on that. But the long and the short of it is when Billy gets conservative, that does not help us, and he has a tendency to do that, right? So I want to see him really try to coach away from that for himself going forward. And I think if he can do that, we can be in an interesting position, maybe alluding to some of the same things you are as far as what the last 5 games look like here. Um, the O line. The O line's got to get healthy, first of all, right? We've had some banged up. Obviously, Kingsley's the big one, but Barber got hurt for a week there, and we've just had some up and downs with some guys on the line. Um, once we're healthy, which I'm going to hope that we are coming into this week. I don't know yet. Injury report comes out tomorrow. We'll see what's on there. But even if they're not on the injury report, Kingsley played in that Kentucky game, but he wasn't himself, right? So I think that's hopefully going to get well, and we'll go from there. But again, we'll see. Time will tell. Secondly, we've got to find better continuity. With the players that are playing to execute more consistently, right? This has been the real letdown for this team. I think it's, if you're going to name a position group that's struggled the most, I don't think there's any question it's the O line. Um, Tennessee is a decent defense this year, as it turns out, right? When you look at it, and we were the much more physical team when we played them, but otherwise, we have not looked like the much more physical team against kind of anybody. I mean, maybe McNeese, but they don't count. So, and no disrespect, it's just a totally different talent level, right? We're not playing with the same, hand of cards there, right? It's a different deck. So, um,
Sure.
so yeah, really, really want to see the offensive line come together, gel. Because those guys playing as a unit, especially when you're doing the zone blocking thing that we do, is just super, super important, right? It's not just an assignment of open up this hole. It's you got to go all block over here based on the scheme of this play, right? So that's a really important thing, and something I don't think we can stress enough is that play has got to improve for us to really get where we'd like to get by the end of the season. I'm going to call out the return game here. So I know this special teams. I understand kick returns are special teams, but we do have the ball and we're advancing it in theory. In theory, um, when you're on a kick return, right? So, and at the end of the day, it just needs to be better. And it's nothing against Ricky. I don't think it's Ricky's fault. I'm not sure Ricky's the guy I really want to see there. Um, I know Trey made some mistakes in that first game, and I'm not necessarily for putting him back there just to not risk his injury. But what about Gene if he's getting healthy, or Mizell back there to run some back? Why not put a super dynamic playmaker back there and just give him a shot? You know what I mean? I get that Trey made some mistakes on fair catch, not fair catch, whatever the case might be. But man, let's give it a try. Let's switch something up and try to get some dynamic stuff going on there, right? Actually get some game changers, right? um Last but not least, penalties on the road. Did see some improvement here against South Carolina for sure. It was better overall, and the ones that they did get called on them, some of them were very questionable, as we discussed. But it's got to be an emphasis going forward that we don't have procedural penalties, especially on offense. And it's just got to be a real stress focus for this team. It just has to be. I don't know whether it will or not at this point. It kind of feels like a coin flip to me, which I don't love saying, but that's just kind of where I'm at with it. But that's the last thing, and I'd really like to see improve going forward is just a little more consistency in that, especially on the non-home games. Right, home games have been pretty good, but the rest of it's been very questionable, as you know. So that's what I got for things I'd like to see improve on the offensive side. Why don't you take us through what you're looking at there?
Yeah, man, I am so glad to hear you come around a little bit with the play calling and so some of it was really neat. For a second there, I thought you were somebody else. I apologize. No, but no,
Hey,
overall,
it's gotten better. I'm happy to say it's gotten better. I mean, at least, and of course, that is my opinion when I say it's gotten better. But I do think that there is proof on the tape to show that, right? I think we've really seen some things that we weren't necessarily seeing before. Certainly, more guys getting open than what we saw before. So yeah, man, I'm just glad to say it.
hey man, as the great oldies ballad would go, hoping and wishing and praying. And anyways, so all right, so things I'd like to see improved. Let's talk about third down conversion percentage. Okay. Right now, we rank 29. Sorry. We are 29% in third down conversion percentage. That is good for number 123 in FBS. And in
Yeehaw.
case you're wondering, well, what were we last year? Glad you asked, Gator Nation. We were 40% last year, number 47 last year, right? 40% conversions, third down, number 47 the land last. And I get it. We got a few games left, but an abysmal 29% and 123rd in the nation. We have to find a way to get third downs converted in a more effective and efficient manner. Period.
Yep.
Period. Right. The next thing I want to see is, and this goes to the passing game, this goes to the overall offense as a whole, right? When we talk about weapons, we talk about speed, we talk about dynamic playmakers. Listen to this. We're scoring about 29.1 points per game so far this year. That's good for 65th in the nation, right? And again, FBS out of 133. When you look at what we've done in losses, 12.5 points per game, Utah and Kentucky. In wins,
Yikes.
however, 35.8, right? So again, I'm not saying we need to average 35, 36, 40, but instead of that 29 needs to come up in a big way, maybe closer to 33, maybe at the end of the season, we end on 33 and change, right? That's going to give us a better percentage overall in games. So scoring, I think, is huge. B, you touched on it. You touched on the penalties, but I'll take it a step further, a yard further. I'll take that. My thing is procedural penalties, but at inopportune times. So, agreed. Not as good on the road compared to home, right? Utah, 9 penalties for 46 yards. Home at McNeese, 5 for 35. Home at Tennessee, 5 penalties for 30 yards. Home at Charlotte, 5 for 35. Kentucky, 10 penalties for 86 yards. Home at Vandy, we had a little bit of a slip, 8 penalties for 70 yards. And at South Carolina, we cleaned it up a little, 6 penalties for 48 yards. More specifically, it just seems like we get an offside penalty on third and short. we get a emotion, an illegal, whatever the case might be happening on that side of the football, we're 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, when we just put ourselves into a deeper hole. In addition to that, when you look at it on the defensive side of the football, I think defense, when it comes to the pass interference that were called again, somewhere I'd say 50% of those were questionable. And again, a fluke same jersey penalty, that was what it was. All overall, we've done a better job with the penalties, especially after the Kentucky game. However, it's the timing of the penalties, not just the penalties themselves. So hopefully Billy's working on that with the guys. I mean, heck, we've got 2 O-line coaches, right, that can come together, put their heads together and figure out what we're doing, what these guys are doing procedurally. And B, you said it earlier. I think maybe it does have to do with some of the inconsistencies on the O-line, but at the end of the day, these guys hopefully have taken enough snaps to know when they need to shuffle their feet or when they need to move their head. So that is what it is. My last point on things I'd like to see improved for the Chomp segment is, in addition to playing off of that with the O-line, consistency on the O-line. So you used a great word, great word, continuity. This O-line is the key. And I think Billy said it well. We got hired here because of our offense, the way we coach in the trenches, and the way that we structure our lines. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So guess what? As long as we can get the O-line straightened out, regardless of injury and inconsistency, that's going to be a huge thing. And in addition to that O-line, protecting graham cracker. I don't want to see him break like a graham cracker. I really don't. For those of you who know, it's really easy to snap a graham cracker. We do not want to see Graham's jersey dirty. We don't want to see him wincing. We don't want to see him limping. He needs good protection. And so with that, the other thing I want to see is in the passing game, we talked about vanilla before, right? I want to see that progression, right? Did we go from vanilla to a little bit of chocolate sprinkles or rainbow sprinkles and some hot fudge, maybe a cherry? I don't know. We're not getting the Neapolitan. We're not getting the strawberry in there and the chocolate that we need to see for the dynamic abilities. But the other thing, really and truly, if we have that speed, which we do, and we have that talent, which we do, in the passing game, I would love to see that we use some of that talent and that speed to keep the defensive safeties on their heels versus toes. Even if it means we use some dynamic schemes to send some quicker guys out as a decoy. If you tease them enough, if you throw the ball long enough, you're going to start getting some safeties and some corners to shift and get them on their heels instead of toes. Now they're guessing to, of course, play complementary football when it comes to integrating the run game. So those are things I'd like to see improved on the Chomp segment. But overall, great points, B. Love it.
Yeah, man, you too. And really like that last one. And I think that is really important. And I think you saw that a little in South Carolina, right? Again, not a good defense. We know that. But
Yep.
At the end of the day, I think they were definitely guessing by the time we got near the end of that thing. I mean, they didn't know which way was up, right? And that's really what you want. And I say that. Of course, they have their concepts, they have their schemes, and they're trying to do as best they can with those things. But to your point, it's human nature, right? When you get beat enough, or even when you get the threat of getting beat enough,
Oh, yeah.
right, you're going to get a little scared of that. You don't want to give that up, especially not repeatedly, right? So that's exactly right, and you're going to be looking out for that. That makes your play action more effective, right? It
Yeah.
makes your run game potentially more effective. There's all kinds of stuff that can really kind of mess with a defense's head when you start hitting them at all those different levels, right? I don't have a problem with the short passing game. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just I don't want that
Yep.
to define, everything that we do, right? That shouldn't be all, right? There should be
Exactly.
more to it than that. And I think that's the point, and really, really nicely made by you. Good call there. All right, so
Yeah.
let's transition over to defense. Why don't you start us off here with what we like so far about the Gator Bait unit?
Yeah, man. So this is really unique to me because I had a big prediction at the beginning of the season, right? I wanted to see our defense in the 30s in the nation, right? That was going to be a massive upgrade from what it was in 2022, much less 21 and 20. I'm sure a lot of Gator Nation remembers 3rd and Grantham. Anyways, that is what it is. So
Please no, I don't need the flashbacks. Please no.
fair. Okay, sorry. Forget. can the court reporter please strike that from the record? So the things I like, players seem to be processing faster, right? They're processing faster, they're processing better positionally at the overall scheme. Austin Armstrong, he's young, he's got the visor, he's running around, jumping around the sideline like a wild man. But whatever he's doing, it has proving so far to be very fruitful. And you made a mention to it. I'll just say it, especially when you look at what we've got ahead of us and coming up in 2024. Yeah, we're going to need a defense that is battle tested. So when I look at what's happening overall, when you look at the status of the defense, right? Our total defense right now, number 18 in the nation. Number 18. That's hard to believe, right? It's hard to believe sitting at 5-2, 3-1 in the SEC, and arguably, after just a poor showing at Kentucky, we feel like we let one go at Utah, right? Utah did not beat us. We literally handed that one to Utah. So there's that. The other thing is, when you look at scoring defense, we are allowing 20 points a game. Again, if you're allowing only 20 a game, you're going to win a game or 2 or 10, right? We're number 34 in scoring defense in the nation. So total defense number 18, scoring defense number 34. We're well on our way to having a very stout defense. Now, let me give you some yardage numbers. Utah, we gave up 270 yards. McNeese, right, gave 112 yards. Tennessee, 387 yards. Charlotte, 210 yards. Kentucky, 398 yards. Vandy, 340. South Carolina, the big one, 465. Okay. So check this out. You take Tennessee, Kentucky, and South Carolina, right? We gave up on average, 416.7 yards in those games. You take the other games, the other 4 games, right? The Utah, McNeese, Charlotte, Vandy, we're giving up 232.8 yards a game. Big difference. Big difference there.
Huge difference.
Huge difference. Not to mention, those of you who listen regularly, you might have heard in podcast, probably episode number 4 or 5, we mentioned compared to last year's defense, we are still, even though the past couple of games have sounded like a little bit like the Wild Wild West, we are still giving up an average of 109 yards per game less than last year's defense. So something to be said there. Third down defense, 23 for 79, for a percentage of 29.1. That's number 10 in the nation. Love that. We got to get teams off the field. We got to get our offense back on there doing what they do. So 23 for 79, 29%, phenomenal. First down defense, what most people don't think of. First down defense, number 7 in the nation. So very good on that side of the football there. So when you look at some of those fundamentals and some of the different things where we looked at in past years, I won't say names, it just seemed like we were in a wrong scheme. It just seemed like we were going to stay in this scheme until something else changed. It seemed like players were not in the correct position. Guess what? A lot of that, I'm not saying it's fixed, but a lot of it's definitely getting better, right?
Oh, no, so a lot of it is fixed. A lot of it is fixed.
And that's the main thing, right? We just need to keep progressing to get it even better. And again, tightening the screws to refine it. So those are the things I like on Gator B. What do you have?
Love it. Love it. Good stuff. And really good call out of this versus previous, right? I think because of some of the consistency issues, right? You called that out very well with the 4 games versus the other 3, right? And you look at those yardage differential. I mean, that's almost a 200 yard a game differential that you called out right there, right? I mean, that's massive. So you've got 3 games where we haven't executed super well on defense for whatever the reason, right? Whether it was some things the other team was doing that we weren't maybe prepared for, I'll say, against Kentucky. Which that's shame on us. We should have been more prepared for it, but execution wise, it just wasn't there. Or it's just been a flat out, hey, we're doing what we should be doing from a standpoint of where the players should be and what they're after. We're just not making the plays, right? We're We're in the right position. It just isn't getting executed quite well enough, which I do think has something to do with kind of some of the youth we're seeing.
Yep.
But it's not the only thing, right? It's also a new scheme with Armstrong, right? All these players are learning, right? Everything else. And it's complicated. It is complicated. The stuff we are doing on defense is way more complicated than anything we've been running in the past, I don't know, 5-10 years, just ballparking it. To be honest, I don't know if we've ever run some of the stuff that's as advanced as what Armstrong is putting out there on film. He is doing high level stuff, and when you're doing that, it's great when it works, right? But when the guys don't necessarily execute it well, then that's where the struggles come in, and we'll talk to that. So to the point
Yep.
that you had, and what I was just saying too, scheme and concepts have just been outstanding, really high level. And the execution of this has been more good than it has been bad, for the record, right? There's been more good execution on this than there has been bad execution. I know many times we've seen stuff like, I'll point out something simple, just very basic. Think about how many times last year we would have a blown coverage that you could see on TV and guys just running absolutely wide open. Now that's happened this year, right? It's happened, but it is not happening to near the frequency. Think back to like the LSU game. Every receiver looked like they were wide open with a 10-yard cushion that entire game. I mean, we
Oh,
couldn't cover anything in that game. It didn't matter who it was. Everybody was just wide open all game long, right? You are not seeing that this year in any game that we have played. Now, I know we haven't played LSU yet, and they are a very dynamic offense, so we'll see what happens when we get there. But I don't think it's going to look anything like it did last year, and that's my point, right? And it's funny because I really liked what I'd heard about Tony and what I'd heard about what he was doing when he was going to be the DC. I was kind of excited about him. We talked at the beginning of last year, actually, in all truth, that we were more worried about the offense than we were the defense. Whoops, got that one wrong, right? So when you look at it,
right.
it's really nice to see that we're doing things that make sense from a scheme standpoint, that we're doing things that I would consider to be tactical, right? Against who we're playing against, and modifying that even in game. What a concept, right? Oh, we make changes when something needs to get changed. Oh, what a neat idea. Because that's something that as Gator fans on defense, especially, we have not seen in a really long time. And it's really nice to see. So that stuff, I'm just over the moon about it. I mean, I can't talk enough about how happy I am with that. Um, as I mentioned before, youth, right? It's really been much more good than bad, right? With the exception of Princely, which I'm not saying he hasn't been good because he's been very good. But with the exception of Princely, he actually might even be better than a lot of people think because he's not getting a lot of sacks. But I'll talk to that in a little bit here. But our best players on defense, aside from Princely, are freshmen and sophomores. They just are. Those are our best players on defense right now, besides him. And then maybe you could make an argument for one of the transfer guys playing at nose tackle, right? Whether it's Jackson or Banks, right? But ultimately, a lot of these guys are young and they're doing a really, really good job. So it's very exciting to see that because you know what it means for the future as they get better and they continue to improve and they continue to learn this scheme more and more and more, right? So that's really exciting to see. Um, I would say much better fundamentals, and we kind of talked to this already, but much better fundamentals in coverage and in tackling. I know we've had a couple games where the missed tackles have been a little higher, but for the most part, as an average, I believe we are still averaging less than 10 missed tackles a game, which is not bad. You're not going to complain about, 8, 9 missed tackles a game as an average. It's not great. It could be better, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. So that's something I'm really been pleased to see and want to continue to see it improve as well. I've also seen better communication from what I can see on the field, right? These guys are talking all the time. Last year, it was like Von Miller was out there telling everybody what to do. Von Miller, sorry. We didn't have Von Miller.
The other
Ventrell
Miller.
Miller. Ventrell Miller, excuse me. I apologize. I wish we had Von Miller. But he was out there running everything and doing a good job of communicating. And when he wasn't on the field, everybody just kind of looked around like, what do we do? That's what it looked like last year. That's the best way I can, explain what I saw. This year, I'm not seeing that at all. We've got safeties talking. We've got linebackers talking. We've even got corners communicating, amazingly enough. This team really looks like a unit, and they really look like they're playing together as well as I've seen a defense from Florida play in a long time. To that end, my last point is this unit has the potential to be outstanding as time moves on. Now, I don't know that we'll get it this season to that point, but I won't rule it out either. I'm very interested to see what this bye week does for us. But we have to keep improving, which I've seen evidence of, right? I've seen things that have actually looked better in certain situations, right? Like look at the Kentucky Vandy situation, right? Kentucky runs all over us with counter runs, right? Gap scheme runs. Vandy comes out the next week, runs all the same stuff, and we shut it down. Now, then we come back out the next week against South Carolina, and it wasn't as good. But having said that, when we are executing properly, and there has been inconsistency there for sure that we'll talk about, but when we're executing properly, we're really seeing some quality stuff happen. So I'm excited about what this can really be going forward, not only the end of this season, but also into next year. But we've got to maintain better consistency. That's really what it comes down to, because the scheming concepts are there. They just are. We've just got to execute them a little bit better and a bit more consistently, obviously, as I said. So there you go. All right. So that's the good on defense. Let's talk what we'd like to see get better. So I'm going to start it off with what I feel will be a pretty hot button topic for a lot of people out there. I kind of alluded to this earlier. Pass rush, right? Everybody's really giving the pass rush a hard time. And I would say pump the brakes on that. Not because it's not needing improvement. I agree it needs improvement. It's in my things we need to improve segment, right? However, it may not be as bad as you think it is. And there's why I would say that. We're getting into the backfield. We're just not always finishing the play. We have 40 plus hurries on the season. So a hurry is when you get into the backfield and either move up the timing of a quarterback's throw or make him move the pocket, right? So you're getting into the backfield, you're getting penetration, but you're not getting the sack. So that is a hurry. We have over 40 of them this season already. I believe Princely has close to, I think he's above 20 on his own. He's been phenomenal. He's been absolutely phenomenal. So I don't care that he only has 3 sacks, because he's in the backfield every stinking play. It's ridiculous. The guy beats his man like clockwork. He's been really, really good. Pro Football Focus would show this, by the way. If you go look at their stats on him, they've got him rated quite highly. And that shows out despite the fact that he hasn't necessarily had, a ton of plays in the backfield, right? But he's making an impact almost every snap. Really, really good stuff to see. So 40 hurries, 11 sacks. So again, we're getting good pressure, but we've got to get it all the way home. So step 1 is there. What do we do to get to step 2, right? Second thing, we've already talked about it. Consistency. Absolutely been lacking at times, especially on the road. I'll attribute part of that to youth, right? We talked about how young the defense is. But at the end of the day, it's still got to get better. I don't care what the cause is, right? We need to see improvement here. And again, this is where I'm really looking for this bye week, for these extra weeks of practice, to really kind of cement all the stuff that they've been going through and make it more second nature, and really see this thing start to take off going forward. I can see good things for the defense going forward. I would be surprised if we didn't see them, but, time will tell. I'd actually like to see a little more blitzing. I don't know our exact blitz rate. I don't think it's crazy high. I would guess it's somewhere in the 30s. But at the end of the day, we haven't gotten home as much. So it's not just blitzing, but I feel like we're blitzing a lot on obvious passing downs when we do it. And we're just not always getting it. We're not always getting it where it needs to be, right? It's not always connecting. So that's something I'd like to see us do a better job of. I feel like this was really AA's calling card, right? I mean, they had 44 sacks on Southern Miss last year, and a lot of it came from blitzing. Guy blitzes a lot, right? And we are just not seeing it really be either effective or maybe even be used as much as I think it could be. So I'd like to see us mix that up a little bit. Last but not least, the only player call out that I have here for a negative reason is going to be Jason Marshall. As hard as I and you both have been on him, he has had good plays. Like, it's not like he hasn't done anything all year. It's not like he's been complete garbage on film, right? That's not what we're saying. He just hasn't played to his potential. And I think that's why we're giving him as hard a time as we are. If he just gets a little more consistent and just executes a little more regularly and doesn't have some of these gaps in the coverage and in the play and in the execution that he's shown, all's forgiven. I'll let it all go. So hopefully this bye week, he got his head right. He got everything, that he needed to get right in his brain with how this is all working for him. And we really see him play to his potential the rest of the year. I'm hopeful for it. I really want to see it. And frankly, we got to have it because we don't have the depth at corner yet in terms of experience that he provides. So there's no way he's not still getting significant minutes no matter what happens. And he's just got to play better. So that's what I have for things I want to see improve on Gator Bait. What you got, my man?
Great points, man. Great points all the way around. So I'll take that. I'm gonna second a couple of things that you said and some of my points, but very interesting. I'll keep the theme with our good friend Princely here. To your point, B, top 5 pass rush in the nation, right? Pass rush win rate, according to Pro Football Focus, 28.9%. So why is it on my things I'd like to see improved list? Real simple. 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. I believe he should have more.
Yep. Just finish, baby. Just finish.
That's it. And here's the thing. This is a results-oriented sport. Wins and losses, yards, touchdowns. Guess what? Sacks count there as well. And one of the things that I tell you what, when you look at the line that we had over the past years, when you look at Brenton Cox, I know he's no longer with the program. That was what it was. But standouts like that and some of the freaks of nature that we've had, it's a shame that we don't have more sacks than we actually have. So that is what it is. With that, I'll say consistency in the D-line, right? We have a tendency to, like you mentioned, stop the run, rush defense, very good, show up. In Tennessee, with Tennessee's O-line, just absolutely stunned them in the first half. It was just like Tyson S, just left, right, cross, over, uppercut. And they were going to halftime going, what in Sam Hill just happened? Yep. We have the ability to do that. And then yet we go to Kentucky and just, you let Ray just run all over. Just give him the keys and say, okay, go ahead, take the tractor. We'll see you when we see you. So consistency on that side. Because that's the other thing too, and we've mentioned this with SEC football, you've got to control the trenches. That sets the tone for a lot of things moving forward. And here's the thing, to that point, we need it. When we needed it really, really bad, fourth quarter of South Carolina, they did deliver. They did.
That's yes, they did. Stop, it's a very good point, right? It is a very good point. Stats don't talk about those kind of things.
No, they don't. So we're not saying they can't do it. It's just the fact of, we saw it, we like it, we kind of want some more of it in a more consistent fashion. That's it, right? Giving up explosive plays. So I mentioned the yards per game before, and so here's the thing. When you look at those explosive plays, especially against Kentucky, especially against South Carolina, over 15 explosive plays. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a lot. Right. And so there's a reason why. Now, again, B, to your point, I think that makes sense. When you're running the type of scheme we are, when you're running a lot of man, when you're running a lot of those things, you're going to get beat, and that's fine. It showed. It happened. Happened in Tennessee. Definitely happened Kentucky more so in the sense of from the run game, and then
South Carolina. that was the run game. That was what was so tough about that one, having that many explosives on the ground.
Bingo. And then you saw the secondary get exposed a little bit, at the South Carolina game because Rattler threw for 100+ yards, more than I thought he should have thrown for, but that was what it was. So again, consistency on those sides. Is it youth? Sure. Is it inexperience? Sure. But at the end of the day, there's been glimpses of just great play and great positioning and great tackling. So to your point, B, I went ahead and did an average as you were talking there. So check this out. Utah, 3 missed tackles. McNeese, 6 missed tackles. Tennessee, 11 missed tackles. Charlotte, 7 missed tackles. Kentucky, 19 missed tackles. Vandy, 6 missed tackles. Yeah, South Carolina, 8 missed tackles, right? That averages out to about 8.6, 8.7 and change on the year.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
There you go, right? I tried to look it up for last year. I can't find it, but my guess is it's a little bit higher, a little bit higher. So that is what it
I
is.
know for a fact, I don't know the number, but I know for a fact for at least the past like 4 seasons, or maybe it's not 4, it might be 3, but that we've been averaging double-digit missed tackles for the season. That I do know.
I'll find the number, but I do not disagree. Do not disagree. The last thing I'd like to see improved when it comes to Gator bait are two very extremely talented players. And those of you thought I might have given Jason Marshall a tough time because he should have had 3 interceptions by now in the season. But Jason Marshall, great talent. For whatever reason, is it he's not getting the snaps? He's not liking the scheme. He's not. I get it, but at the end of the day, he's got such tremendous talent, right? 5-star coming out of IMG Academy here, and I believe Jason is not playing to his potential. So it's not the fact that I'm upset with his play. It's one thing to say, oh, he's a 2-star, but you're expecting him to act like a 5-star, play like a 5-star. Well, he's a 5-star, but he's playing more like a 3-star, right? And when you
Yep.
look at his attitude,
which again, that happens, right? That I feel it's important to talk about this. Not every 5-star turns out to be some amazing player, right? There are busts, right? It's just like the NFL. Sometimes you've heard of a draft bust, right? It's a similar thing, right? Guys that theoretically should be better and they don't work out for whatever reason. But the thing about a 5-star is the thing that we're pretty much real dialed in on at this point in recruiting is that 5-stars have the physical ability to play at an extremely high level, right? At an NFL level is what it comes down to, right? That's why there are only like 25, 30 of them a year, right? That's all there are. And fun fact that I just read today, Jason Marshall is the only 5-star we have signed at Florida, a consensus 5-star. I know Kamari was a 5-star on one recruiting system, but not on others, right? And Gervin Dexter was too, but not on others, right? But the only consensus 5-star we have signed since 2016.
Right. Yes. Unequivocal.
That's crazy. That is crazy, right? One, that our recruiting's been that bad, but two, that this is the guy. Like, this is the guy. He, by all accounts, has the physical talent and ability to go out there and cover anybody. And at times he shows it, and at times he doesn't. So sorry for cutting you off.
No, I tell you what, you finished my point, and that's all it is. We're saying that this guy, again, it's not the fact that one system had him as a 5, one system had him as a 4, and no, he graded out 5. He graded out his quickness, his ability to see the football, his ability to cling to his defender like cling wrap, or his receiver like cling wrap. Like, these are things that we read, we saw, and it's just like, where is that? Where is it? That's it. That's it. Nothing against him as a person, right? The other one is who started off the season very strong. And I had my own little nickname for him, right? My man, Scooby Williams, getting some Scooby snacks. Tackles for loss.
We thought we were gonna have a cool thing where you get to talk about Scooby snacks every week and Scooby sacks when he gets them, right? Yeah, so not so much.
And that's over the past couple of games. And like B, you had mentioned it. Was it because again, all this is he started to not show up as much since Kentucky, and we know Kentucky was a rough game for him, arguably with some missed tackles and positioning. But at the end of the day, I hope he can really come back because he's shown to have the quickness. He's shown to have the speed, because quickness and speed are two different things, especially when it comes to closing speed. He has the ability to tackle. So all those things, and regardless of what else is happening, again, he's got the ability. So my thing is, my call out is I'd love to see Scooby get back into his groove, go looking for Scooby snacks, and make some great plays. So those are things I'd like to see improved in the defense for our Gator bait section.
Don't ghost me, Scooby.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, that's getting pretty dad jokey. Sorry. All right, moving along.
It's allowed.
So next up is going to be Pride of the Sunshine. So talk us through, what are you liking so far with our culture segment here?
Man, I gotta say this is really, really special to me because outside of football, these are young men, right? and they are going to be living in society. They need to be functioning, productive members of society. Their sons, they're going to be fathers, their brothers, um, all the above, right? And so when I look at that and what GatorMade is designed to do, GatorMade is really designed to develop them as those people, not just the father element, but also in the business element, in the classroom element, in the world element. So I really enjoy what Billy Napier has done to bring GatorMade to University of Florida. For those of you who don't know, it was something that he saw Dabo Swinney implement in Clemson. And so again, really a good thing for him to bring it here, implement it here, because again, besides football, when you look at all the players on this team who are really going to go pro, who are really going to have that impactful career when they're in the NFL 4, 5, 6, 8 years, outside of that, they're probably going to go on to succeed at something else, right? And giving them the skills and tools and abilities to be able to navigate business and different jobs and different settings, that's going to be a great thing all entirely. So I really enjoy what they're doing there. The other thing I like is Billy's system, his culture. Is the culture working, right? Strength in numbers, playing for each other, right? He says if you focus on the process and you have a system, that means the noise is blocked out, you're locked in, and you're playing the way you need to play and doing your job, right? So that has been evident in some games, most games, some games. But the other thing is seeing, and I get it. When you look at when he landed here in Gainesville, right, a couple Decembers ago, he technically hasn't even been in Gainesville a full 2 years. It's kind of crazy to think about it, but it was really unique for me to hear him tell the team and say publicly last year's team could not handle success, right? And the one thing that he does not want this team to be is excuse makers. So when you talk about those things of leadership, when you talk about those things of accountability, when you talk about those things of what we expect, right, moving forward outside of football players, just as men, some really good things happening there. Really, really good things happening. The other thing I really enjoy is the dynamic between Austin Armstrong and Billy Napier. Billy Napier, albeit a little bit more stoic, a little bit more reserved, although truly at South Carolina, we did see him crack a few more smiles, things like that. We have seen him smile a little bit more, especially when you look at Vanderbilt, that being homecoming and celebrating with the guys on the field. So that's been good. But I think Billy still has the reserve capability, and he knows what he needs to do to be the quote unquote CEO of this team, because that's what a coach is. Coach is a CEO, to run it the right way, to have the right systems implemented. And Austin Armstrong, here's the thing, Ben, I think you said it best when you look at the potential that this defense has, not just to be good, but to be great. And
Yep.
if Double A can really lock in on some of these guys, continue to grow and stretch and teach with them, if we are lucky enough to have him for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons, and they're developing as quickly as they are, then that would be absolutely phenomenal. We can definitely say that rough and tough Gator defense that we had years ago is going to be back and is going to be playing at a very, very high level. So all those things in general, and especially on the leadership side, just seeing different players step up. Of course, Graham, but the main thing, just understanding Napier's ability to influence and infiltrate and inject this amazing culture. And again, we talked about it before, but all the off the field incidences, all the extracurricular incidences, hopefully from 2022 on, we don't have to worry about our Gators getting into any kind of extracurriculars, any other legal issues, whatever the case might be down the road. It's going to be clean. It's going to be done the Gator way. It's going to be done Gator made. And not to mention, these guys are going to hold their chins high, knowing that they're doing it the right way. They're playing the game the right way with high level skills and integrity combined. So that's the things that I like coming out of Pride of the Sunshine Bee.
Love it, man. Good stuff. I love, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I love how much passion you have for that segment. I think it's awesome. So I'm going to keep mine kind of short and sweet here. I think there's a lot of good stuff here. I think there's much more good than there is bad. And bad's probably not even the right word. Much more positive than, I guess, not positive. And so, just to that point, I think overall the culture is in the right place, which is a really great thing to say, right? It certainly would appear that way. Now, again, things we can't know for sure, right? We understand that. But just from the signs that we're able to see, it certainly looks like it's in a right place. And you would think that the program culture is probably also in a right place with the recruiting successes that we're having, right? I think that kind of helps reemphasize that culture piece as being a big, value added part there when you see what's kind of going on the recruiting trail, which again, we'll talk to a little more in a minute here. Mertz's leadership, it has to be mentioned here, right? It's been just outstanding. I mean, as much as I think there is an opportunity, and I think this is something that you have as a call out to have some other guys potentially step up and help him with this. Man, he has been phenomenal, and I think that is really, really, really important. This team is not 5-2 without it. Period.
No,
That's all I got to say. We're just not. We're just not. He has been a real reason why we've had the success that we have had. And to your point, you mentioned it, right? Napier showing a little more motion on the sideline, I think has been good for the team. I'm not saying that he needs to be AA out there. To your point, there is definitely a diametrically opposed relationship going on between those two. I mean, AA is a nut out there. I mean, he's crazy, and Billy's much more reserved, no matter what he's expressing. But he has been showing some more excitement, some more joy with the players and stuff like that on the sideline. And I love it. He's just getting a little more involved emotionally this year, it seems like. And I think the team's responding to it. So that's why I like it. So that's all I've got. Like I said, short and sweet. And then I'll go ahead and take it and move on to things we'd like to see improve here. Mine's pretty straightforward. Teams with a good or a great culture, which I really do think we're building, but maybe we haven't quite got it all together yet as terms of, every piece. Those teams should be really good on the road. I'll just pause there, right? We have not been really good on the road. That stuff travels, plain and simple, right? Culture travels. So why haven't we been better? I know we just got the win, and I know we looked a lot better doing it, but that has to continue. And I'll need to see proof that it's going to before I'm going to buy in fully that we've got all this culture stuff, established and worked out across the board, right? I think that is one little kind of sign that we're seeing that maybe we still have guys that just aren't fully bought in yet, or maybe it's a lack of understanding or what, right? Maybe bought in is not the right word, but I think that's kind of a tell that we still do have some development there to do, and I hope we continue to see it. The other thing culture should build is consistency, regardless of where a team plays. And this team has been up and down all over the map, right? Again, there's a road versus home story here in consistency for sure. But I mean, look at the Charlotte game. Our execution was not the best in the Charlotte game, right? There's no two ways about it. It was subpar. And when you look at that, and that's a home game, right? So what the heck, Tennessee letdown? I don't believe in that stuff, especially not when you have a culture that's got its head on right? Like we're supposed to. That stuff's not supposed to happen, period. So I think, again, there's opportunities here for us to improve on a couple of things, but that's really all I'm going to call out. I mean, it's just really the overall kind of results that you see as a result of culture, because culture is a part of this game, especially with these kids being as young as they are. And we've talked about this repeatedly throughout the year. So it's really important. It really matters. That's why we have this segment as a part of what we talk about every single week, because it matters, right? It's the X's and O's, of course, matter a ton, and the execution of them matters a ton. But execution can relate to what the team is feeling, what they're motivated by, what they're playing for, right? These things matter. And that's why we talk about it every week. So that's what I've got for things I want to see improve there. What do you got?
Awesome. Short, sweet. I like it. I'll echo some of your sentiments, B. Preparation, right? And not just for the away games. Yes, away games, more just in general, the consistency of the preparation. If the culture is working, if the other systems are working, then yeah, it's just got to show through and through. Great call out on the Charlotte game, because that was in the swamp.
Yep.
That was a later game, and it was what it was, right? It was just it lacked wow, it lacked proper execution, good execution. Anyways, is what it is. Hyping up, hype men, hype figures. Brandon Spikes coming back, getting his degree, great, good for him, right? But the other thing is, he's there on the sidelines. Do we really need Brandon Spikes hyping up the team? Do we need him to amp up the team? Do we need former Gator greats coming back? Now, the one thing I love about Napier, he says, hey, if you were part of this program, you walked on that field before us, guess what? You're welcome back. We'd love you back. Great. But are they really necessary to amp up the squad? Where's the self motivation? Where's the self amping up? Knowing that I'm going to go out there and play for the orange and blue and represent the way I should, right? So that's one thing. It just seemed like, and B, you made a call out, regarding Ricky, and correct me if I'm wrong, but before the South Carolina game, he's looking around the locker room going, for the first time all season, it's like, okay, everyone's ready to go. Like, wait, what? How long did it take?
Yeah, 7 games, baby, 7 games.
And again, I hope, that might have been a little bit of TV speak, but either way,
hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. My thing is, where's the inner motivations to just know that you're going out there and, again, going back to the coach thing, playing for your fellow brother, your fellow teammate. The last thing I've got as far as things I want to see improved, man, and I mentioned it earlier, Graham Cracker. Tremendous. B, I couldn't have said it better. Great leader. He is exactly what we needed. Without him, we are not 5-2. We are probably another record where a lot of the football world thought we were going to be midway through the season.
It might be 2-5, honestly.
You want to flip the script? We don't want to speak that into being, but I don't disagree. So on that basis, I would love to see someone else come alongside and help Mertz carry that torch. Some support, some another voice. Don't get me wrong, Graham's pretty cool under pressure, right? He's got the deeper voice. He's reserved. He's got a lot of snaps under his belt. But I really would like to see somebody else step up and give him a little bit of aid because, again, he's taken some big hits this year and he's come back. But the other thing, too, is for whenever it gets to a position where he gets down or again, and I hope he does not, gets injured, whatever the case might be, we just need another voice to be able to come in and just continue what he has started. And I believe, listening to him, okay, he's having as much fun he's ever had. He's enjoying playing in the swamp, this crowd. He's having more fun he's had playing the game. That I don't think that's TV speak. You can just hear it in his voice. He's just genuine when he says it, genuine in his face. So we need to give him as much support and also find another leader to come alongside to give him that bouldering support that he needs. So it's not solely on his shoulders.
Yep, for sure. For sure.
And outside of that, that's it, bud.
Good deal. Good deal. All right, we will move it along to hatchlings real quick, and this will be a brief update, but man, is it a big one. Huge news here. If you somehow haven't heard, and you're, maybe not everybody keeps up with recruiting, but this made headlines all over the place over the weekend. The biggest headline is Billy Napier figured out how to win on the bye week again, right? So this is how you win on the bye week. You land a consensus 5-star player, well, consensus with everybody but Rivals. I don't know, for some reason Rivals has this guy outside the top 200. The other two recruiting services have him in the top 10. So how do you do that? I don't know. But regardless, we use On3, right? And that's what we look at. On3 has him rated as the 6th or 8th. I can't remember which, if it's 6th or 8th, but regardless, top 10 player in the country. That's just ridiculous, man. I mean, we haven't had a recruit that high in quite some time. When you look at this is a big, big get, and the kid looks amazingly special. 6'6", 270. Though I did see 270, 275, and 260 all as his weight. So once again, we can't even get a weight stat right. So whatever. No, but at the end of the day, we'll say 260 plus. How about that? And 6'6", and man, he can move too. This kid is going to be dynamic, and he is super professional. He seems really buttoned up. Everybody was complimentary of how he handled his recruiting. Seems like a class act, man. I couldn't be happier to get this guy. So having said that, overall high level look at the class right now, again, On3 is the site that we use to do our evaluation. We now have 3 5-stars, 14 4-stars, and 7 players in the On3 top 100. 7. That is huge. Absolutely huge. The class is absolutely without question elite at this point, and there could be still more to come, right? Jordan Seaton's still hanging out there, right? There's a couple other guys we're looking at. There's a couple flips we're looking at. I don't know where it's going to end up and where it's going to end. The biggest task now, as we have already discussed, is to keep what we have as best as we possibly can. Right? That is the real task at hand right now. There's some talks about a couple of flips possibly coming. I don't know if they will or not. Time will tell, right? But we have got to do what we can to keep this class because it is just fantastic. There's just no two ways about it. This is a game changer of a class. What are your thoughts on McRae there?
B, you've thank you, DJ Lagway.
Yeah, buddy. You are so right. You are so right.
That dude, and you know what? I don't know if it's I don't know if he channeled his inner Tebow and said, you know what? Hey, I'm going to Florida. You want to go to Florida? Let's do something special down there, right? That's essentially what Tebow did when you look at what happened with Harvin, what happened with Spikes and all those guys coming down. So maybe it's that reincarnate.
Spikes all but admitted he came because of Tebow. I'm not sure if Harvin wasn't there already, but I'm sure he stayed because of it. But as far as being committed, but Spikes said he committed because of Tebow. So that's a really good point.
Yeah. So, anyways, hats off to Lagway. He's just doing some unhuman-like things down there in Texas in high school. But
and hats off to Graham. Because Miles had something to do with this recruitment too, by the way.
Sure. Great call out. Great. So that's the other thing too. It's interesting what we're seeing happening in the recruiting game, because no disrespect to the prior regime, but recruiting was almost an afterthought, it seemed like, especially when you look at the activity that we've had in the past couple of years. And again, put this into perspective. Billy Napier has not even been on campus 2 full calendar years yet.
Yep.
Just great.
Yep.
I can't say enough. Great. Good. Awesome. Killed it.
Yeah. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. All right. So let's talk midseason superlatives. So started off with offense here. Again, we're just doing one player, one side of the ball. This doesn't necessarily have to be an MVP award. I think for me, it is an MVP award on offense. On defense, I don't know if it's necessarily MVP, but I think it's just an impact player for me that I've really seen consistently be there week in and week out. So having said that, for offense, it's got to be Mertz here for me. I mean, as much as we have seen some skill guys really show out, right? Really kind of unexpectedly show out. We all knew Trey looked good in camp or whatever, but I don't think we ever expected to see this from him. Arliss has been outstanding, right? And of course our running backs have been solid, though they've had a tough road to hoe sometimes because of the offensive linemen. But regardless of that, for me, it's just got to be Mertz. There's just no question. He has been outstanding in both of his play and in keeping the group together on a winning path with his leadership, right? We've talked about it extensively, and it's just outstanding. And that's all I got. So who do you got for offense, bud?
Same.
Yeah.
It's really here. And here's the thing for those of you who know or don't know, like we compare on the agenda. This is a modified agenda compared to the regular pod, but we just basically had, hey, how many points do you have for this? How many points do you have for that? We do not necessarily, we don't get into detail. We just don't, as far as what our points are, especially on this for midseason superlatives. And for me, the main thing about Mertz to see what's different is I am so proud of him to see what he's been able to come in here and do, knowing what he heard about how the Gators were going to finish, right? Oh, Gators over at 5.5. Okay, great. Mertz, coming out of Wisconsin. He lacks this. He lacks this. He lacks playmaking ability. He lacks mobility. Okay, keep talking. And just so proud of him, and to see the leadership. And not to mention, he was interviewed by SEC Nation, a couple days ago or end of last week. And it was really neat to see him talk about the team and talk about the guys and talk about the team and talk about where he is and why he's doing what he's doing, and just stays out of the spotlight, willing to share the love. And so with those things in mind, that's why my midseason superlative on offense goes to Graham Cracker Mertz.
Love it. Couldn't agree more. Who you got for defense?
Defense. So this is tough. So I looked at a lot of different stats. To be honest with you, based off the start of the season, I thought it was going to be Princely. And again, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of great numbers on him, although it doesn't necessarily show in the sack column. All the other metrics point very, very well. I thought it was going to be Scooby. No, okay, but for me, it's just going to end up being right now Mr. Shamar James. 50 tackles, leads the team. Believe it or not, Jordan Castell, people, second with 32 tackles as a true freshman.
Yep, I know. He's been impressive.
Whoa. But when I see what Shamar has done, the leap that he's taken to be almost the quasi Ventrell Miller, the quarterback of the defense, looking over to the sideline, turning his helmet, making sure, pointing, making sure people in the right position. Really, really proud to see him and the leadership role he's taken on the defensive side of the football, as well as the responsibility he's taken to play in the middle, and not to mention 50 tackles, doing a great job. And just, again, he's going to anchor that defense in a big, big way. Hopefully, I feel here in the second half to finish out this gauntlet of a season. But for me, defense, midseason superlative, Mr. Shamar James. What do you got, B?
I like it. It was definitely one I considered. I too considered quite a few here. Castell was on my list, actually. Princely was on my list, and Shamar was on my list. But I ended up going with Jaden Hill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Jaden has been absolutely outstanding in the star position. And you need to remember that he never played it before this year. Right? He was playing corner his whole collegiate career up until now, right? Before the ACL tear, after the ACL tear. This is the first time he's ever been asked to play that position, and I'm not sure he could play it much better. He's been outstanding. He has been absolutely outstanding. Now, I know Star doesn't always have an impact, right, on everything that's going on, but he has been really solid in coverage. Very rarely has he missed an assignment. Very rarely has he misplayed an assignment. It has happened, but it hasn't been bad. His tackling has been outstanding. He has made so many tackles at or behind the line on quick screens and plays, quick game plays out to the side. He gets off his blocker and he goes and he makes the tackle. He has been a really, really solid defender for us this year, and I think a big part of the reason why the defense is playing as well as they are. So that's my pick. Little baby came out of left field on that one, but I really thought about it and I was like, you know what? I'm giving this to Jaden, man. He's really done a great job, and I think he'll continue to do so. So, all right. So yeah, man. Thanks. Expectations for the remainder of the season. All right. I'll get this one started off. Easy to get deep in the weeds here. I'm going to try not to do that. I'm going to try and keep it pretty high level. I expect that we'll continue to improve. That's really my expectation as a whole for the team for the rest of the year. We've shown that so far this season. With the only real regression, I would say, being the Kentucky game, right? I know defense against South Carolina left something to be desired, but that was also a better offensive team than the ones we've been playing, right? So in fairness, I think you get a little bit of forgiveness there. But we have a tough road to hoe on these last 5 games. I mean, we've talked about it. It is not getting easier. From a win-loss standpoint, I'd like to see 2 and 3 to close it out. I would be very happy with 2 and 3 to close it out. I know some people may be being like, what? I think it's going to be hard for us to get much more than 2 wins going out of this thing. If we do, phenomenal. I love it. 3 and 2 is outstanding. But at the end of the day, I really just want to see the team continue to get better. Even if we don't go 2 and 3, what if we go 1 and 4, right? I'm not doomsdaying that if I still see the team continue to improve. And I think that's possible with the slate of games we have in front of us to go 1 and 4 and still see improvement, for the record. Closing strong would really be helpful. And I do think the players playing in the bowl game this year would be helpful as well. And I think that has a much better chance of happening because of all the youth. But we'll see what happens there. But the team has a lot of really good momentum right now. And I just want to keep that going by giving Georgia a game, win or lose, right? No matter what the final score, let's give them a game, man. Let's go out there and we have some unique opportunity this year against Georgia. You know, we're really in a much better position to play them competitively than we have been since Trask was here. That's really what it comes down to. I'm not saying we're going to win. I'm not going to call for a win, but at the end of the day, we have a better chance than we have had. Let's put it that way. So that's what I've got for what I want to see for the rest of the year. Where are you at with the team as a whole?
No, man, great points. My expectations are, yes, continue to improve, but specifically correct some of the things that we had in visor throughout the first 7 games. Specifically, again, the procedural penalties at the most inopportune time. If we can reduce that by 3 to 4 penalties, right? 10, 15, 20 yards a game, it's going to do something truly special when you look at shooting ourselves in the foot. The second thing I want to see the rest of the season is when it comes to the intensity of the game, I want a little bit more. This is going to sound kind of strange, but I want the defense to roam freer. I want it to be controlled, but at the end of the day, I want them to just be free and go make the play. Sometimes when you look at gap discipline, you look at different things that we've talked about this year, as far as anticipation, again, they're getting better, but I want to see that freeness come into play because with this gauntlet that's coming up, I mean, let me just take a step back here. Georgia, neutral site, but Georgia's still number one. They've got this stupid winning streak, right? That is what it is. It's fine. But it is, I just love
24 games.
I know. I would just love to see Kirby Smart get so upset at the end of that game because we broke that streak. Arkansas at home. Now, Arkansas, they've struggled this year. Probably, Sam Pittman's on the hot seat. It is what it is. And it's so funny, too, was when you look at the start of the season, I want to say their quarterback, Jefferson, was at the top of the list, right? As far as top quarterbacks in the SEC, poised to have a breakout year.
Yep.
After that, LSU in Death Valley, Missouri. I'll be honest with you, Missouri looks better than I think anybody anticipated, right? I get they lost in Death Valley. A lot of people lose in Death Valley, but Missouri could be a problem. And then, of course, FSU at home. Hopefully we can show out compared to what happened last year. We made Jordan Travis run north and south and east and west and byways and highways. And anyways, that was so expectations go on the sense of, yes, we're progressing. Yes, we're getting better. Yes, we're reducing some of those costly penalties. But in addition to that, we're playing freer, we're playing better positionally, and we start to clamp down again because this is going to be a tough gauntlet to go through. We've said it, but if they can just tighten down the screws a little bit more and work on the scheme, refine the tackling. Tackling, that's the other thing. If we can finish out this year with these remainder of games, right, in these next 5 games, and we can average under 10 tackles a game, that's winning football. Or I'm sorry, missed tackles. That's winning
right,
football.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal. And then the other thing is energy level. I expect the energy level to be high. I expect it to be organic. I expect them to be ruckus on the sideline. And I expect there to be a lot of self-motivation to finish out the season because hopefully, again, it's almost like if I just do it one time, then I have that belief I can do it. Well, guess what? You upset a major SEC rival in Tennessee, and you won a high-profile shootout in Columbia. So guess what? You can do it.
Yep.
Just rinse and repeat, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's it.
Good stuff. Good stuff, man. I love it. Yeah, that's there's a lot to look forward to here. A lot of opportunities to really shine. Unfortunately, also some opportunities to falter a bit. So we'll have to see what happens. All right, let's play some Keep It or Pitch It and wrap this thing up.
Yeah.
So Keep It or Pitch It for Georgia. Here we go. UGA is currently second in the nation. Just makes me sick. In third down conversions at 57.1%. What? That's crazy. However, UF defense is 10th in the nation and only allows 29.1% So that's almost a 30% swing in the loud versus executed there.
Yeah.
So the keep it or pitch it is UF will keep UGA under 40% conversion on third down in this game. What you got? Keep it or pitch it.
Man, so they don't have a particular weapon with a particular set of skills. Yay, us.
Yep.
However, they have some other weapons, and Beck, as young as he is, has proved to be prudent with the football, not turning it over, being very strategic. So on that basis, as much as I want to keep it, I will pitch it. I have
Oh.
us I have us giving up somewhere between 42 to 48%, hopefully not 50% in third down conversion.
Yep. I'm right there with you, actually. Interestingly enough, we're not going to argue here. Pitch it for me as well here. It was a little thought provoking, but I think at the end of the day, you still got a talent gap that's pretty wide with Georgia. That's why it's really not something I can pick to win. Even though I do think there are some things that this team can do to really kind of mess Georgia up a little bit. So I'll be
Yeah.
interested to see how well we do that. But again, level execution and everything else, I don't have it under 40. I'm with you. I think it's in the 40s, hopefully the low 40s, but I don't think it's under. So I'm there with you. I'm pitching it. All right. Number 2, UGA ranks 7th in the country in scoring defense at 14 points per game. UF will score more than 21 points this weekend.
Okay. So keep.
Really?
Here's
Really?
why. Yeah, here's why. Last year, 42 to 20. Okay, whatever. In 21, 34-7. In 2020, 44-28 in a win. 2019, 18, and 17, all it was a loss. 24-17, 36-17, 42-7. Okay. From 2016, 15, and 14, the Gators won, the good guys won 24-10, 27-3, 38-20. Looking at the efficiencies in the offense, and I think coming off the bye week, Billy's going to put a particularly compelling game plan together. We're crossing 21. I'm keeping that.
So am I. Interestingly enough,
What?
2 for 2, we agree. I know you're shocked, right? I am keeping this as well. I think this is what I'm talking about. This Georgia defense, it's still very, very good. There's no question. You look at all the stats, but at the end of the day, they're not near as dominant as the last couple of seasons they've been, right? And defensively have just been absolute monsters. And I think this newfound offensive, I'm going to put the hope in that we see some of this newfound offensive success and play calling and design and everything else, and we put that to work and we take advantage of some of the mismatches I actually think we have here. Because I actually do think we have a couple. Arliss probably being the biggest one, to be honest with you. And I think we kind of feed Georgia a little of their own medicine at the tight end position, and I think we break 21. I do. I don't necessarily think it's enough to win, but I think we break it. So we'll see what happens. All right, last but not least, UGA is a 14.5-point favorite against UF, despite close games with Auburn and USC, right? Those games were 10 and 7 or 7 and 10 respectively, that they won by. But having said that, Florida will cover, so they will get inside the 14.5-point spread. So 2 touchdowns or less. Keep it or pitch it.
I'm going with my theme. I'm gonna keep it.
Okay.
I'm keeping it. I think we are going to cover the spread. And again, although in the regular season or the beginning of the season, I do have this as a loss. And again, Georgia arguably is without their number one weapon. I hope we can pull off a shock and awe, but at the end of the day, I think we more than cover that spread of 2 touchdowns and change.
All right. So now we're back to normal because I'm pitching this. So for the record, I don't think it's much more than that. And I think it only happens late. I think, something happens late in the game, a turnover, or we turn it over on downs trying to get there or something, and they come back and get a late kind of garbage time touchdown that doesn't really matter. And I think we lose by like 16 or 17 points. I don't think we lose by a lot more than the spread, but I do think Georgia covers just because we're just not quite there yet. Now, listen, there is absolutely plenty of worlds where that does not happen, and I'm right there with you. So I hope I'm wrong. I will be honest, I did flip this one back and forth. I first put pitch it, then I thought about it. I was like, oh, I think we can do it. And I went back and did keep it. And then I was like, no, I don't think we can do it. and I switched it back. So there you go. All right. So good stuff. So we'll see how that all goes next week. Hopefully, at the very least, let's have a good game this week, man. That's really what I'm rooting for. A
Yes.
solid effort, a good contest, and a good game. The win would be amazing, but I'm not seeing that as likely. But you never know, and we'll see what happens. So, with that, I think we're just going to do our wrap up here, pretty short and sweet this time. We're, just as always, very appreciative of everybody that's taking the time to listen, and really just can't tell you how much we're enjoying doing it. Even here on a sick day, right? Out here doing this for me. So I must love it, right? I must really have the passion for doing this, and I know obviously Randy does as well. So,
Yeah, man.
really appreciate it. Thanks for your time and all your thoughts and points as always. And with that, wherever you are and whenever you may be listening, thank you for taking the time, and we'll see you around, Gator Nation.